everybody. It's great to have a big group tonight for our first webinar of the Let's Talk Money webinar series. And our title today is Who Are You with Money? And before we get into the content, I'd like to go ahead and do a couple of introductions. I'm Kathy Swedler. I work with University of Illinois Extension as a consumer economics educator, and I have the pleasure of serving Champaign, Ford, Iroquois, and Vermilion counties, as well as the state of Illinois, and sometimes beyond. Seisha, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. My name is Seisha Grabensitter, and I also am a consumer economics educator, and I'm up in Grundy, Kankakee, and Will counties, so right below Cook.
Yes, and you'll be hearing more from Seisha a little bit later tonight. Kamaya is another member of our team. Kamaya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Kamaya Walls-Bichard. I have the same title as Seisha and Kathy. I serve Livingston, McLean, and Woodford counties. We are so happy to have you on with us. This is the second time we're offering Let's Talk Money, and we are super pumped to get started. So thank you for being on.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. So now we want to hear a little bit from you. So this is the chance for you to open up that chat feature because we really do need it. If you can do that and let us know what county in Illinois are you from, or what, if it's a different state, where are you from? We'd just love to know where people are from. And this is going to go very fast. So I see lots of counties: Colorado, Iowa, Cook County. Did I see Pennsylvania, Chicago? Kankakee, Nebraska. Wow. Cook just recently moved from Champaign to Southern California. Oh, that's very tempting. Okay, just because of the weather. Lots of people. This is great. Freeport. All right. So the chat, if you didn't find it, that some people were very fast. I'm just going to go over it one more time. There's a little message bubble somewhere on your control bar. You can click that to open it. Sometimes it's sneaky and it hides under the three dots that say more. So you can open it up that way as well. And welcome from Oregon. Yay, this has traveled a little bit. And just if you're joining, a couple of things, we are recording. So you know that. Please keep your mics muted and your video turned off so we can hear everything. And yes, we made it past 100, which that is wonderful to have such a big group join us in the evening. Woo! All right, it helps us just to know who we're talking to. So I'm going to launch a poll, and you could please just let us know what your age is. This is anonymous. It won't tie down, but I'm just curious who's attending. Yes, you will receive a link to the recording in the next week or so, as well as a list of all the resources we're going to be talking about. And so you'll get the whole thing. All right, just about lots of great votes here. I'll give it just a couple more seconds. Got 85. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and use the chat if for some reason the poll isn't working on your device. That's absolutely fine. I'm going to end it right here and share the results. Looks like we have more people who are 30 to 44 than any other age category, but it's actually an excellent spread there. So well represented overall. Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much for all that great participation. Oops, I am going the right way, sorry. So I kept saying something like, if you're a Money Mentors, please put your name appropriately on your profile. And we wanted to let you know that one of the programs that we have in University of Illinois Extension is Money Mentor Volunteers. And it's currently operating in the counties that are listed in the slide there. And we're just starting out our training for 2021 right now. And so some of the people on are training to become Money Mentor volunteers, and other people are just joining us because they want to learn more, which is fantastic. But if you are interested in becoming a Money Mentor volunteer, we would love to have you. And so Seisha just put a URL in the chat, and you can learn more about us at go.illinois.edu/moneymentors. So looking forward, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. So what are we doing here today? What we want to do is to really kind of start thinking about who we are, about money, and what influences our financial decisions. So we're going to start out by exploring what we call money messages, and then we're going to think about how our values affect financial behaviors. We're going to go in and talk about money personalities, which is really quite fun, I think, and then talk about how we begin our own financial plans, and then dig a little bit into what does financial well-being mean and how is that something that we can apply to our lives too. So as we go along, we're a team here presenting. My voice right now, but we've got lots of backup in the chat. So ask questions as we go along, please. And let's make this as interactive as we can, even though we, can't all be in the same room. So that's why we've got a team of people on here, so we can make sure we get everybody's questions answered as best we can. So let's start thinking about what is it that kind of defines who we are with money and how we react when we have to make financial decisions. And there's lots of things that influence us. And if you think about it, it can be our family and how we were raised, our money personalities, things like our spiritual beliefs, our communities, whether it's our neighborhood, our bigger community, our ethnic group. There's lots of ways to define communities, and the experiences we've had over our life. Those things definitely change who we are and how we see finances. And then we don't want to underestimate the effect the media has, what we see in the media and what it tells us about money and how to spend money or how to save money. And so think about these things, because as we do this exploration through Let's Talk Money webinars, the whole series, these things are what's going on that really drives what we do with our money. And then we don't always spend a lot of time thinking about all these different influences, but they do really matter. And being more conscious of them, being more aware of them, lets us decide which ones are helping us to reach our goals and which ones maybe are standing in our way and we want to rethink. So one of the things that's kind of interesting is when we think about how we're raised, we often have, sort of taken in money messages throughout our life. And those money messages can be, kind of interesting. Sometimes they make sense to us, and sometimes there are things that we might have heard and we're acting on, but we don't even realize that they're part of it. And so maybe sometimes they're cute little sayings, and sometimes they're just sort of things we know. So some of them are in this slide. For example, maybe you've heard a penny saved is a penny earned, or easy come, easy go. I know I've seen on RVs, I'm spending my child's inheritance, or maybe you can't take it with you. So think about it for a second and think about what kind of money messages did you hear as you were growing up, or that you've maybe heard recently, that you would know that you could share with us. So go ahead and put those in the chat if you can think of a money message that you've heard or has impacted you in some way in your life. And while you're all thinking and typing, I know, like when I was in college and I had a hard day, and I'd call my mom, she'd say, go shopping, you'll feel better. So what we got here: only live once, so spend it. Prepare for a rainy day. Money doesn't fall from a tree. Start saving as early as possible. Treat yourself. Buy things when they're on sale. That's a good one. Nothing is ever free. I couldn't understand how inflation couldn't be fixed by printing more money. Yep. Let's see. Start planning early for retirement. And some of these are flashing by so fast that I'm not having a chance to read them out loud, but hopefully you can open your chat bar and see more of them. Your father would walk around turning off lights saying he didn't work for ComEd. So, yep. Lots of good money message examples of things we grow up hearing and maybe influencing us in our background subconscious. All right, so keep adding into that, and we'll be compiling those in an email that we're going to send out so everybody can see them well later this week. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Seisha now.
Thank you, Kathy. So just quickly, one of my money messages in my life was that my dad, he pooped out $100 bills. So just thought I'd share that. It's a little silly, I know, but that's what he would tell us. But, values are really important when we talk about financial decisions. And it's important to think about your values when we're talking about how they affect and impact your financial decisions. So this is just like a quick list of some values. There's probably hundreds of values out there. And one activity you can do after this webinar is make a list of your top 10 values and then rank them. And actually, picking them isn't hard. It's ranking them that is. And then think about whether your values align with how you're choosing to spend your money and make other financial decisions. Kathy just put a link in the chat for the worksheet. So if you want to download that, feel free. But values are really important when we're talking about financial decisions. Could you go to the next slide, please, Kathy? Thank you. So if you guys wouldn't mind in the chat, we love the chat. If you wouldn't mind giving an example of how a value can affect a financial decision. So one thing that like my husband and I really value is actually our kids' education. So instead of, and Kathy hates this, so I'm just going to tell it anyway. But when we asked for, instead of giving my child gifts for his birthday, we asked for like $5.29 donations for his education fund. And Kathy's totally a gift giver, so she hates this option. But it's a really good thing for us. So it really helps us to motivate and save for our child's education. Are there any others that you guys can think of? Somebody said tithing for church. Somebody said, yes, saving for education or a Series EE bond. Saving for a vacation, yep. Balance, you have to have some fun, but don't spend everything on fun. But fun is so much fun. Retirement, of course. Sometimes we have a big discrepancy between present purchases and retirement. Buying a house, paying off student loans. These are some great ones.
And think about the value that's behind it. So like, do you value security or planning and that's why you save for retirement? What is the piece behind it that's really motivating you there?
And sometimes our values don't align with our spending. And then that's something that we just have to be aware of and kind of make better choices sometimes. So.
Yeah, so Mary has one about, driving an older vehicle. So I would guess that you probably don't value having a new shiny one to show off. So, all right, peace of mind, that's a good value one. Don't want to depend on others to take care of you. Yep, so there's that independence value. Security is important, so I save where I can.
That's great.
Yeah, I think this is where we sort of dig down into like what's motivating us, not just what we do, but what's motivating us.
Definitely. Okay, Kathy, I'll let you take it back over.
Thank you. Okay, so, and this is great. Keep going in the chat. I'm just going to keep talking while those go in there and we can see and do multiple things at one time, I think. So that's all really good. So what we're going to take a look at next is what other things kind of affects us in our financial decision making, and money personalities are something else to consider. And so this is an area that's been researched by a variety of different people. We're going to talk about a couple of them that in thinking about money personalities and how they drive people can really help us, I think, in relationships, because it helps us understand why people do things with their money that might be different than the way we would do it. And it really does kind of, it gives us a context to talk about financial decision making that I think is very helpful. So whether or not you fully, all the different pieces of money personalities resonate with you or not, I think the context and the language does help us when we're talking, especially to people who we care about or sharing financial decision making with. It can be really helpful that way. All right, so Olivia Mellon is a psychotherapist who was one of the first people I heard talk about money personalities, and way back in the 80s. And she went ahead and described several different money personality styles. And so we're just gonna, her approach is a little bit kind of from a like extreme, like people who have kind of extreme behaviors with their finances, but I think it does give us a good perspective to start this conversation. So, for example, an amasser might be somebody who tends to be happiest when they have a large amount of money at their disposal. And they like to use that money. They like to either be saving it or investing it or buying something with it. They just like to be doing a lot of things with their money. Now, on the opposite side would be a money avoider. This is probably somebody who just like might be even late with their paying their bills, not because they don't have the money, but they just don't like to do anything with those money tasks. They don't like to think about money. They don't like to pay their bills. They don't like to get any financial tasks done. They'd rather just avoid it. A money hoarder is a little different than a masser in that they're really interested in building up that wealth. So they're going to want to keep saving money to the extent where they might actually have trouble spending their money even on things that are necessary for themselves, but especially on anything that we might think of as discretionary. A monk is somebody, and when you, as I'm talking about this, you might actually be thinking of people you know who kind of fit under them. I know that I can do that. So a monk is somebody who kind of thinks that money is dirty, that it's the root of all evil, that too much of it's going to corrupt you no matter what. So that's definitely can affect their thoughts around financial decision making. And a spender is somebody who really enjoys using the money for immediate pleasure and gets satisfaction on giving gifts as well. Essentially, they just like to spend that money. So lots of different things there. Now, like I said, these are extreme kind of. People don't tend to follow just in one, but they could lean one way or another, and that might be a little easier way to think about it. From this work, Sybil Solomon, sorry, I lost my S's there, developed another way of kind of looking at it, and she calls it money habitudes. And the way she describes it is that we tend to have habits that are just sort of our patterns of behavior, the things we've fallen into automatic behaviors and decisions just over our lifetime. And then we have attitudes that are subconscious thoughts and feelings. And one of the things that she really helps us do with her work is to, again, bring that information up to our conscious level so that we have a sense of what we're trying to do, what we're doing and why, and we can stop and think about why we're doing it. And she describes these into like several different categories slightly than Olivia Mellon. Let me step back and just give you an example of this. Let's say, if we think about it in terms of pets, that somebody just loves dogs. Dogs are the best thing in the world, and that's their attitude. And so whenever they get a chance, the first thing they're going to do if they see a dog is just pet that dog. They don't really think about it. They see a dog, they pet the dog. It's that fast. That's the habitude. All right, but if we take it over to finances, let's imagine somebody who believes that debt is really very dangerous, something to be avoided at all times. That would be an attitude. And his habit is avoiding loans. Now, in many situations, this could be a very helpful habitude for somebody, but it could stand in somebody's way. For example, if they wanted to get more education or they wanted to start a small business, they might be in this habitude of just saying no to loans. And it might be more helpful for them to stop and actually think through, are there any exceptions to that? How would that play out in this situation? And so that's just something else to kind of think about is, when are these money habitudes helpful to us and when do they need to be re-examined? And one of the things I want to say, if this is of interest to you, we have a podcast on this topic where we talk about it for like an hour. And so if you're interested, it's called Family Financial Feuds podcast series, Who Are We with Money? And I think Seisha just put that in the chat. And yes, we don't talk for quite an hour. I take it back. We talk for a little bit less than that. So, all right, so let's take another couple examples of this real quick here. So let's say that somebody was spontaneous. Now, with all these habitudes, they're not just, sometimes we hear a word and we think, well, that's a negative thing. It's not necessarily, none of them are all good or all bad. They are a mix of things, okay? So a spontaneous habitude could be that somebody is able to quickly respond to opportunities. They like taking risks. They like attention and recognition. Those are all positive things. Some of the challenges might be that they might spend money even when they don't have it. They might tend to keep money secrets or owe money to other people. However, you may find that a lot of entrepreneurs have at least some aptitude towards this spontaneous habitude so that they can make those kind of decisions that they need to make when they're starting up a business, for example. All right. Another example would be the planning habitude. Again, pros and cons, advantages and challenges. Planning can help you have the willpower to stick to your planning. You probably enjoy saving money. But challenges would be, you might miss out on opportunities when they're not in your plan. So for example, college students that think of an example of a college student where they're really being very careful with their finances and they're having to work hard and take out loans to pay for expenses. So they've got this very strict plan. It could be that they would fail to plan for fun events. It's something we see with people who are really high in planning. Sometimes they actually have to put fun events into their plan in order to have that be part of their life as well. And Seisha and Kamaya, if you think of anything you want to jump in, I'll take a breath to give you that moment. Okay, while I'm breathing, I'm going to put up another poll. And again, this is anonymous. And I'm just curious, which of these statements describe you the best? And again, there's no right or wrong answers. There's no good or bad here. Just which one? You might want to choose two, but you only get to choose one this time. So it looks like we're getting a lot of answers in here. Coming up with some, this one's got more of a definition. Interesting enough, nobody has been willing to say they don't like money yet. I guess if you really were an avoider, you probably wouldn't choose to be on a webinar.
That's probably true, Kathy.
Yeah, unless somebody signed you up and then you had to do it. Okay, I'm going to end this poll and share the results. Hopefully you can all see that. It looks like the biggest group was I like to actively grow my money. And people think saving money is important, but we've got a good number who prefer not to think about money or who enjoy buying gifts for others as their height. So what I love about this is that we represent lots of different kinds of attitudes about money, and that's what makes the world so interesting. And as I said again, you may lean one way with your money personality, but that doesn't stop you from taking actions that are outside your personality. It's just that in that personality, it may be the first place you easily go to, but you can consciously make a decision to do something different if that's what you want to do in order to change your financial actions or reach particular goals. Thank you for participating in that. That was great. So much fun to see everybody answer things. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about on and off through the through the webinar series is creating spending plans and having a way of managing our money. And I think that the reason some people like spending plans is it gives you a plan of where you're going and how you can spend your money and how you can put what you're spending money on to the things that reflect your values and what your goals. And so we've already started talking a little bit about knowing what's important to you. And I would really encourage you sometime in the next few days to take some time to sit down and kind of think about that a little bit more. Maybe do that value activity that Seisha talked about. And then from there, you may want to start thinking about what are your financial goals? What do you want to do with your life? And we're going to keep, as I said, this will come up more than once during this webinar series. The next thing that's a step to the spending plan is really knowing your income and your expenses. And I think this is really very important because it helps us be mindful about our money. And so it gives us a way of really knowing where our money is going. So that's good data, but also being mindful of what we're doing with it and taking a close look at where we are today in order to see where we want to go in the future. So what I'd like you to do is to think about what are some tools or ways that maybe you've tried or you've heard of for tracking expenses. Have you ever done that where you've sat down and tried to keep track of all the money you spent? So we have somebody has suggested a Mint app, which is a very commonly used app a lot of people like. Quicken, Excel, a ledger, print paper is great. Truebill app, Excel budget spreadsheet, a calendar with due dates can really help, a notebook, all kinds of things, all kinds of spreadsheets. A lot of times there's apps that people like as well. I'm not sure if I saw too many of those go by yet. All right, envelopes, the envelope budget method where you put your money in and you just take it out as you need it. And when it's gone, it's gone. So, all right, great. Let that list keep building here. I think we mentioned most of these that are on mine. Sometimes a financial institution like a bank or a credit union will have tools on their websites that you can use. So if you haven't done it before, it might be worth exploring that. In terms of apps, which a lot of people I think do like using those, just Googling top tracking expenses or budgeting apps will give you a great list and you can read about them and see which features you really like. Some people like to connect their financial accounts, like their credit card or debit card, to their phone app. And so like if they go make a payment to like put gasoline in their car and use a credit card, it'll automatically go into their tracking tools app as like transportation or gasoline. So it just does that for you automatically. Other people would prefer not to link it and just, manually put that in. Either way is fine, of course. Sometimes you have to kind of play around to find what way you like the best and what works best for you. So I have a challenge for you. We're going to be talking about this a lot more in 6 weeks on March 9th, when we're going to be talking about how to build your own spending plan. So if you're with us for the long haul here and you'll be on again in 6 weeks, I challenge you to keep track of your expenses for the next 6 weeks. I'm not saying it's a lot of fun. It's not something I actually think is like fun, but I do think it's really helpful. And I think it's a great way, as I said, to become more mindful of your spending. And so you may want, to do a little experimenting between now and then to see what method works best for you. But yeah, I'm sending out that challenge to everybody that's on today. Try it for 6 weeks and see what you think. In my mind, it's one of the best financial strategies that I know for making changes in my life. It's also really good if you're in transition, like you're changing jobs or you're moving or changing life stages. It can be really, really helpful then too. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at a concept of financial well-being. Traditionally, when in the kind of few years back mode, people would talk about financial well-being by sort of concrete measures. It could be like somebody's net worth. How much do they owe? How much wealth do they have? It could even be more about, their credit score. How high is their credit score? But it hadn't, so that was sort of the way a lot of people in financial education and financial services kind of talked about it. Then a few years ago, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau decided to do some research on this area and to ask, they did it really very extensive, where they looked at the literature for the research, they talked to experts, they had focus groups of consumers, they did all kinds of things. And what they found is that people really didn't describe financial well-being by these concrete measures. Instead, it was really more of a highly personal state, kind of a feeling of positivity about their financial well-being. And I think this research is really interesting. And if you want to know more about it, Seisha did put that into the chat again. But I want to take a moment here to kind of, again, give you a way to put this in context of your own life. And I'm going to show you these 8 images. There's 8 different rectangles here. And I want you to look at those, and I want you to think about which picture best represents what you want your financial well-being to feel like in the future. So which of these pictures best represents what you want your financial well-being to feel like in the future? And then I'm going to be quiet for a minute while you think about that. Yes, and if you know which one, you can put it in the chat. We'll kind of see what we've got going here. Again, always so interesting because we see it from different perspectives. And of course, as somebody mentioned, the weather locally might be influencing us a little bit here. That beach does look pretty good. All right, and I see that somebody is actually taking it the next step. And I want you to now think about, like, why, why does that picture have to do with your financial well-being? What does it mean to you? I think somebody had said steps, lost that. Oh, stones over the creek represents having ample dollars on each step of life. So somebody else mentioned, looking at the stones, I bet, having balance and peacefulness, serenity. A lot of times we are looking for that peacefulness, right, with our finances. The plane could represent freedom and flexibility to pursue what you want in your life, that ability to travel. The beach could mean enjoying travel, having that finances that like you to do that. And the keys, I can provide the keys to financial abundance to my friends and family. I love that one. Travel to see my family so far away. I think we're all missing that travel right now. It's been pretty hard. Okay, I'll let you keep going there and kind of look. I'm going to go backwards here. The researchers that did this out of a Common Sense Lab in North Carolina did find that people had some some themes that came out of this when they did a study by applying this and asking lots of people. And you've mentioned many of those. So, I heard peacefulness, I heard security, the foundations, the bricks there. A lot of times, sometimes people talked about the foundations of your life. And building a strong financial foundation. Sometimes people talked about the fact that their financial well-being was going to be taking different steps. They were going to work their way to it. So the steps towards it, or the road might be long, but they were going to go there. Independence was another theme that came out, as well as family was definitely one. So, all right, thank you, Sasha, for finding that. All right, so we've been talking about things like your values, your money personalities, talking about financial well-being and how to start thinking about where you want to be with your financial well-being in the future. So this is really the things that prepare us to start taking concrete actions that we might want to take in terms of things like our spending or our savings or our debt management, which will be moving on in other webinars. One of the things that we want to do in our Let's Talk Money webinar series is also bring you information about finances that are really very current, that things might be going on that aren't, that are unique to our situation right now. And one of the things I wanted to share with you is about the stimulus checks. So we really make a big switch here from financial well-being to stimulus checks, but you may probably already got your stimulus checks either both in the spring and maybe in this fall as well. But if for some reason you haven't received them and you're wondering if you're eligible or not, there's a great website for people from Illinois, but really actually it would work for a lot of people. Getmypaymentil.org in the chat, and you can check if you're eligible. If for some reason you didn't get it and you should get it and you're eligible, then when you file taxes is your chance to ask for it. And so you really need to use this time when you file taxes to say that you want it. Now, it is called on the tax return recovery rebate credit. I'm not sure I would have thought of stimulus check when I saw recovery rebate credit. So I wanted to bring the language out for everybody so that you're aware of it. So whether you're filing the 1040 or 1040A, that's the credit that you're looking for. And however you file it by paper or online. And just keep in mind that tax credits are money that you can receive, especially this one, at times when you don't even owe taxes. So you don't have to owe taxes to have to file for this. But one of the things about tax credits, you have to ask for it. If you don't ask for it, in many situations, like for the earned income tax credit, you definitely need to ask for that if you're eligible and you want to receive it. So if you're curious about other tax credits that you might be eligible for, the URL that's in the chat, IRS, I think that should be irs.gov. That's my fault, sorry. irs.gov/help/ITA would be the accurate URL. And don't forget, we're going to be sending you all these URLs in an email, so they'll be much easier to grab. So keep that in mind, that the tax, when we file taxes for 2020 is when we need to ask for those recovery rebate stimulus checks if you haven't received them. If you like to learn more about tackling taxes for basic educational information, not tax advice, we just did a webinar on that, some partners of ours, and it is recorded and you can access it. It's called the Get Savvy webinar series, Tackling Taxes. And we will be putting that link in the thing. There goes, boom. All right. So now's a good time to be thinking about questions that you wanted to ask, but you maybe haven't had a chance to. I'm going to go ahead while you're thinking about those questions. I'm going to launch one more poll. We are funded by federal dollars as well as state and local dollars, and we need to show that who we are teaching and who we are reaching. So I need to ask you to complete this poll. Of course, you don't have to complete it, but it does help us maintain our funding. And again, it is anonymous. So these are just some general demographic information that helps us with our reporting. Yes, thank you for saying there's 3 questions here. You may have to scroll down to see them all. Or maybe I needed to scroll down to see them. Is that what you're saying, Jared? Okay. You can be Hispanic and white for Rafael that asked. That's typically how it's considered. And again, I didn't make these categories. I have nothing to do with them. This is how we are given it by the federal government. So thank you for your participation. I do appreciate that. I'll leave that open for a second. If you would like to connect with us on other programs and other things that we may have mentioned, we do have a website that has all of our information from our team, the consumer economics team. So that's my little plug out there at this point in time. And we are looking forward to continuing this presentation for the next few weeks, but we'd really like to get feedback from you so we can keep improving and we can answer the questions that you have on the topics you have. So we do have a survey set up for you, and if you could complete that survey, that will help us as we move forward in our teaching. And I think there should be a link for that going up pretty quick here too.